Hello there. Welcome to the first screencast for our math cohort group support meetings. And these are designed to help the different subgroups in completing stage 1 of the curriculum map, which is the desired learning results. And this is just an introduction. I do realize that it's a closeout week for everybody. That's why for this week, we're taking it slow. We're trying to develop a conceptual framework which builds upon the last cohort meeting. And for those who started with the cohort group from the very beginning, the ones that were discussed in January and February of this year in the UBD professional development. Okay, let's start. These screencasts are meant to be short, straight to the point, and provide practical examples to help you in developing the curriculum maps. So we always start with the quick professional development, and it's not meant to be a long presentation. It's meant to be short, and the discussions or questions that you will have is up for discussion when we begin doing the open web support meetings. So for this PD, I took some slides from the Understanding by Design framework, Acquisition, Meaning Making, and Transfer by Miss Donna Herold. She's from ASCD, or the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development, which is a very valuable site in terms of resources for Understanding by Design. L for L, or Learn for Life Educator Outlook. How are we supposed to view this? First, we will be using the conceptual framework of Understanding by Design for the curriculum maps, but we will also customize it for our personalized learning program. It means that if we need to make changes, we will make changes, and we will not strictly adhere to the conceptual framework of Understanding by Design. And again, this would be part of the discussions that we will be doing in our open web support meetings. So, desired learning results. What are they? There are three distinct kinds of learning, and it's very important to see this from the very beginning before we even start looking at the curriculum maps. First is acquisition. Next is meaning. Here she mentioned meaning making. And then transfer. So if we were to use the UBD framework, we must address each of these kinds of learning. The roles of teachers and students vary according to the AMT goals. It means that when you're focusing on acquisition, you may do direct instruction more often than not. When you're focusing on meaning, you have a more facilitative role. And on transfer, you're more of a coaching role. And that would be discussed further when we move to stage 2 and 3. Acquisition of knowledge and skills is not the long-term goal. These are usually found in textbooks as the objectives, but the means for student to illustrate understanding and transfer. So the focus here is understanding and transfer. And you will see more of that in this short presentation. Some examples of AMT. Here is a very practical example. So, say for example, you're trying to teach a student to tie their shoelaces. Acquisition is them practicing, drilling, giving drills on how to actually tie their shoes. Here it's very important to see it's not the end goal. If they want to tie their shoes, is that the end goal that we want? But notice that it doesn't stop there. In fact, it's just acquisition of skills. Next, student draw or speak the steps of lace tying. Now they try to make meaning and not just the physical skill of lace or tying the shoelaces. Also part of meaning is student discuss the pros and cons of laces versus Velcro. So these are the two types of shoes that are available to most kids, and the different methods of tying. Here they begin to compare and contrast between two different styles, and that is making meaning. Finally, students teach others to tie the rope or the laces or to tie ribbons. And this is where transfer takes place. If you notice, there is no more scaffolding involved. It's the students themselves doing the teaching to another student or one of their friends on how to actually tie their laces and make ribbons out of their shoelaces. So that is independent, unscaffolded, and it's something that retains with them because they teach it. And this is just one way of demonstrating transfer. So what you see here is a practical example, and as we move on, we're going to translate it in terms of our curriculum for math. And Miss Haddad and myself, we worked on this template today so that each and everyone will be using one standard template and start working on stage 1. Here is the template. And this would be sent to everybody so that you could start working. It's a Word document and it's in landscape format. So, stage 1, desired learning results, and you'll see it up here. Established goals, so what Common Core, next generation standards, anchor, and or mathematical practice standards will this module address? This is the part where you put in the standards that have been established. If they have been unpacked, and we will discuss that in another screencast, like if you want to use the North Carolina document, this would also be the place to put them. Transfer. Students will be able to independently use their learning too. And here we're talking of long-term independent accomplishments. What's your desired long-term independent accomplishments? Two factors. They have to be long-term. It means it's being retained long-term in the student's mind. They have to be independent, unassisted, unscaffolded. Meaning if they're on their own, what would you want them to do with what they learned for this module? Moving on to meaning. Understandings. Students will understand that. What specifically do you want students to understand? What inferences should they make? Moving on to essential questions. Students will keep considering what thought-provoking questions will foster inquiry, meaning-making, and transfer. So these are questions that are not simply answered by yes or no. It will require debate, it will require discussion, it will require more inquiry, and it will require long periods of time to actually present or try to present an answer. And those are your essential questions. Okay. Finally, acquisition. Students will know what facts or basic concepts should students know and be able to recall. Here, if you want to include vocabulary, like math vocabulary, this is the right place to put them. And finally, students will be skilled at, and what discrete skills and processes should students be able to use. And here are the math skills that you may want to focus on. So for our open web support meeting, Tomorrow, Wednesday, and on Thursday, I would like to request everybody to think about this particular screencast. And if you have any questions or want to open discussions specific to your own subgroup, the Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and Transitional Math groups or curriculum maps, bring it to the meeting and we'll do a quick discussion of them. Now you only need to attend one of the meetings, and I do understand it's closeout week, so I thank you in advance for taking the time to start with the stage 1 of the desired learning results. Coming up next on the next screencast, that'll be for next week, would be samples of how to use this template and this conceptual framework in making our own curriculum maps for the math cohort meeting. And again, our goal is hopefully before Thanksgiving. That'll be by November 27th. We should have at least a working document for each of the subgroups in terms of stage 1 desired learning results. And we will be discussing that or finalizing that in our December cohort meeting. Until then,